Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from SimpleProgrammer.com. So I got a question on how can I cut negative factors out of my life and replace them with positive ones. This is an interesting question, an interesting topic. And this question is from Jasper, and he says, your video, I've become politically obsessed. Help. That's this video here. You can check it out. Got me thinking about what things I am feeding my mind with, how it is affecting me, and whether it is worth it. How do you cut something negative out and replace it with something positive and create lasting changes? So this is an interesting topic, right? So how do you cut the negative things out of your life and replace them with positive ones? I want to say habit. I want to say that you've got to change your habits. There's a good book on this by Charles Duhigg called The Power of Habit. But I think it's a bit more than that, right? I think that what we end up doing is we get addicted to our vices, right? So the negative things, they sort of make us feel alive sometimes, and sometimes we wrap them in with our identity, right? So our vices. So, whenever you talk to someone who says, oh, I have a short fuse, they're kind of proud of that, right? It's not like they're like, oh, I've got a short fuse. Oh, they say it with force. They believe it. They want you to be impressed or pity them, or in some way they've attached it so much to their identity that they actually get some satisfaction out of being fucked up, right? I mean, if you've seen a lot of these YouTube videos that I've done here and I've answered a lot of people's questions, a lot of times when I'm reading the question, you're like, this person is getting pride in being fucked up. They're trying to prove that they are messed up. And that's just human nature. That's what we do. We want to show how messed up we are, and why do we do this? Why do we do this? I think one of the reasons why we do this is because we can play the blame game there, right? So you can assign blame. Like, it's not your fault, right? This is sort of, you can check out the video on the victim mentality. Don't be a victim. But it's that victim mentality that we're all sort of ingrained to have, which is to say that, hey, it's not my fault, bro. It's not me. It's the world. It's the environment. It's what's going on, right? And that's what we can do that when we say that's just how I am, right? That's one of the things. And so we sort of get addicted. I'm going a little bit off topic, but we sort of get addicted, to bring it back here, to sort of these negative factors, negative influences in our lives, right? Sometimes we have bad relationships, we have friends that are not really our friends, we put ourselves through things, we look at Facebook politics and get pissed off and go on rants and stay up till 3 a.m, like with no purpose, right? We do a lot of things that I've talked about: addiction, masturbation, porn, like all this kind of stuff that we know is not good for us, yet we do it. We get obsessed with pizza. We get obsessed with cake, right? We have the negative factors and negative influences and people that, and to some degree, it gives us this emotional high, like, right? Even if it's bad stuff, it's like, like kids always even crave bad attention. And so I think it's important to understand that. Like, the reason why I'm talking about this is because I think it's important to understand the why if you want to change it, right? So you got to understand kind of why you operate this way and what you're doing. You got to really open your eyes and see this, because we all do this. I do this myself. Right, I cling to these things that I know are negative. This is not a positive thing. So how do you take these things out? How do you actually, like, knowing now the psychology behind it a little bit and why you're doing this? How do you replace them? I've always said, and I did this video on overcoming addictions. You can check that out. By the way, if you're watching on a mobile, or annotations are off by this point, links are always in the bottom in the description, and we'll eventually switch to cards. I know. We got to. YouTube said you got to. So what I said in that video was really that the key to overcoming addiction, to really changing behavior, is to not try and stop behavior. Okay, because when you do that, I've talked about this, it's like a rubber band that you're pulling back, and it's eventually going to snap, and it's going to snap back the other way a little bit harder, and you're just not going to get anywhere, because it's just sheer willpower, sheer force, and you can do it for a little bit, but you're not going to be able to maintain that, right? As I've overcome addictions and bad habits and things like that in my life, I have learned that what I have to do actually is not trying to stop the behavior, but to change the mindset, to elevate it. I've talked about the idea of changing your nature. And so if you want to cut the negative factors out of your life, you have to change who you are, your identity, right? And what I mean is that, you know, a lot of people get upset when it's, oh, you know, they just want to talk about being themselves. And we're on a quest to become ourselves. It's not like you can just be yourself. You need to become yourself. You don't know what it is right now. You're wrapped in all kinds of layers of crap that you need to like shed so that you can actually shine and figure out what it is, and you're actually stepping into it, like you're actively molding your own clay to become what you are destined to become, or what your potential is. You're not necessarily destined to it, but you have this potential, so you have to shape that clay. You have to have a factor. It's not just how you are or who you are or not being authentic. It's about figuring it out and charting the path and being both the creator and the created at the same time. Okay, that's what life is about. That's a journey that you're on. That's a journey that I'm on. That's a journey that we're all on. And it's bullshit when we try to say that's just how I am. So it starts there. It starts with saying my identity is fluid. It's not tied up in this, right? I talk about all the time about the language that you use. Don't say I'm an angry person. Don't say I'm lazy. Don't say I'm shy. I'm socially awkward. Don't say all that stuff, and instead say, in the past I have been like this, or in the past I've struggled with this, right? It's the key is separating it so that it's not part of your identity. Because if you're identifying with these things, with the kind of person that is doing these negative things and doesn't have control over their life, you cannot act in a different way. Like that rubber band snapping back, you can control the behavior for some period of time, but it will snap back. So if you want to change these negative factors and you want to replace them with positive ones, you have to develop a new identity, one that is tied to this, to who you want to become and what they would do. So for example, right? Let's say that you wanted to become get in shape, right? You wanted to become an athlete of some sort, but you're a lazy ass, or in the past, you have been a lazy ass, okay? And you don't have any athletic ability. In the past, you haven't had athletic ability or exercised your athletic ability, right? So you've got this going for you, but you just want the result, right? So you're like, okay, well, I'm going to force myself to go to the gym or to run, or I'm going to join the baseball team or tennis or whatever kind of sport, you know, do MMA, I don't know, whatever you do, okay? It's not going to stick. Why? Because you're attacking, again, the problem without, you know, that's the habit, that's the behavior. And said, let's go one higher level. And let's say, okay, what kind of person, so you know what kind of result that you want, you know, sort of what you're looking for here to get in shape, to become physical, to become athletic. So think about the kind of person that does those things, right? And this is not just physical, this applies to whatever, you know, whatever negative things that you're trying to cut out and you're trying to replace them with positive things. Think about the kind of person that does the positive things that you want to do and doesn't do the negative things that you don't want to do. Trust me on this one. This will work for you, okay? And so what you do is you imagine that, and not just imagine that person, but imagine what you would be like if you were that person, right? I give guys this exercise all the time about overcoming and changing and being able to be confident, right? And this is how you make it this kind of transformation, is you have that visualization in your head. You see yourself, right, as that new identity of what you want to become, and you visualize how that person would act, how they would carry themselves, what kind of things that they would think, and you connect yourself with that new identity, that new nature, okay? And then the behaviors, the actions, because look, you know, if you think about it, right, let's just take two visualizations here. Let's say that you've got this fat programmer who eats Hot Pockets and sits at the computer drinking Mountain Dews, and they make dumb jokes, and they make sexist jokes, and they don't like women, and they don't shower very much, and they whack off all the time, okay? Like, you can visualize that in your head. I'm using tons of stereotypes, okay? But you can visualize that, right? Okay? And then you can visualize someone who is a yoga instructor, and they go to and they visited the Dalai Lama, and they read all kinds of spiritual books, and they're all woo-woo out there, but they like to do meditation on the beach, and they always have some kind of metaphysical thing to say to someone, some wisdom to dispel, and they're always happy and cheerful, and right, that's maybe you don't want to be that, maybe, I don't know, that's kind of cool actually, but maybe you don't want to be that, that's fine, but you see the difference between those things, and what I want you to think about is, how do you envision their days going? What is the first archetype that I gave you of that fat, lazy programmer fitting a lot of the stereotypes? What does that person do during the day? How do they think? How do they act? Where do they go to eat for lunch, right? Think about those things, right? What are they doing at home? What do they do in their free time? What actions, what behaviors do they do? What kind of negative stuff do they do, right? What kind of positive things, if any? I mean, there's some, right? But you can imagine that. Now, imagine that, again, that inspired yoga instructor person who travels the world and whatnot, right? Imagine what their day is like. What do they do? What kind of habits do they have? What kind of behaviors do they have? What kind of lunch do they eat? How do they walk? How do they talk, right? All of these things. What kind of books do they read? What kind of friends do they have and influences that they have in their life? Right? You see the difference there? And so if you try to adopt all of those behaviors by yourself, just like forcing yourself to do these things, you would have a really hard time, especially if you're addicted to cigarettes or smoking and pizza and all this stuff, and now you want to just start emulating doing these behaviors. You'll wear yourself out. You'll kill yourself trying to do the things that this yoga person does, okay? But if you change your mindset, if you change your nature, if you become, in your mind, you see yourself and visualize yourself as this yoga person, all of those behaviors are going to come automatically. And if you're currently visualizing yourself as this very, very shy, socially awkward, I can't talk to girls, and the world is so against me, and everything I do is fail, I'm just a loser, and that kind of person, you're going to act like that. You're going to have the behaviors and actions, and I'm not accusing any of you, but maybe you've got that, right? We all have our own identities and our own psychoses and our own problems and our own visions, and what we want to do is we want to change our nature so that the vision that we have for ourselves is how we see ourselves, and it's if you're becoming, you have become, right? If you're on the path, you're already there, so that you can take credit for it. You can say, if I'm already going to go on that path, time is just a thing. It passes and then you're there, right? So I want you to really own that. Now, how can you actually convince yourself, right? How can you actually take on this belief, take on this new identity, take on this new nature? It doesn't just magically happen. You can't just necessarily wish it. Although sometimes you may be able to. I actually had a lot of success earlier in my life when I was first discovering this, when I actually made almost an overnight transformation just by visualizing and just deciding that that's who I am now. And I said acting as if I pretended to be what I wanted to be. Okay, I think you can have some success in that. But in general, the more secure way to do this, because you cannot directly control what you believe, okay? You can only indirectly, so you can influence what you believe. How do you do that? A big way is what the input is, right? If you have whatever input that you have coming into you, that is what's going to determine what becomes you, right? It makes a lot of sense, right? So that's how you change your nature. That's how you change your beliefs. That's how you stop the negative talk and the negative self-talk and thoughts and have the vision of the crazy yoga person and see yourself actually as that, right? I see myself as totally different than I used to, right? I mean, I was not I was not shy, I was not an athlete, I was none of these things. I would not be recording video or giving people advice or any of that stuff. But I see myself totally in the role now. That's the role I am. I've got a new vision that I want to even take that to the next level. But the way that you do that, again, is a lot through books. What can you control? What are the inputs that are coming into you? And so be very vigilant about those, right? Again, this may be cutting out stuff, right? Don't take bad inputs, right? If you're watching TV, I fucking hate TV. Stop watching TV, seriously. And don't watch many movies. Honestly, it's just bullshit. It's you're letting people decide what you become. You're letting other people mold your clay. Do you want to do that? I don't think so, right? Instead, you decide it. So you pick out the books. You say, okay, I want to have this mindset. So what are the books, right? I just on my screen, As a Man Thinketh is there by James Allen. It's in my bookshelf here too. There's a lot of good books, right? I recommend them. You can check out my top 10 books. I think I called it for 2016, but it's like my top 10 books. Like, pick these attributes and then pick the books and pick the podcasts and pick the people and go to the events and the places where the people with a positive mindset are that have this attribute. If you want to go to places where people are like really psyched up on this shit, go to Tony Robbins seminars, right? They're all about that. You want to get some positive mindset, hang around some of those people. They might be crazy and kooky, but who gives a fuck? What you want to get is you want to get the goal, right? You want to change the mindset. You want to change the nature. So go and do that, right? You don't have to buy into every single thing or join a cult, but you get what I'm saying, right? Is you change the inputs, you change the influences, you change what's coming into you, and it will change you. It will change the nature of you and your thoughts, and it will allow you to step into that new role, and then the behaviors come. The last thing that comes is behaviors. Don't try and prevent the behaviors. Be authentic. Be yourself as you are now and accept that, but change the nature. Change the nature by changing the input. Bam, the behaviors will come and it'll be automatic. It won't be a struggle. All the crazy shit, all the habits that were bad that I used to do, all the laziness, all that stuff that I used to struggle with and try to fight and try to become a better person, it's all automatic. It's all automatic now. I don't even try to do the shit that was so hard for me to do before, because it's now my nature, right? It is me. My identity, when I see myself as this badass who fucking lifts weights and runs and eats healthy and just produces a ton of shit content, good content, and just lets the world have what I got to offer. That's how I see myself now, and that's why I act the way that I do, and that's key. All right, that's all I got to say about this, man. I was supposed to make 2 short videos because I was feeling tired and sick, but you guys get me jacked and pumped up and inspired. I hope that you found this useful. If you did, leave a comment below. Let me know. I want to know if you guys are going to start implementing some changes, if this makes sense to you, this framework here, and maybe I'll do a course on it. Maybe I'll build a course out. This is something that I think, changing your nature is very critical. If you like this video, do me a favor. I know that you're like, oh, well, just search for John Sonmez on YouTube whenever I want to watch one of his videos. Just click the subscribe button. Click the bell if you want to get notified like every time I do a video. I don't know if I recommend that for everyone, but yeah, click the subscribe button because I know you guys are searching, because I look at the YouTube search and I'm like, man, what, like 100,000 people search for John Sonmez? Just click subscribe. You'll get the videos. All right, talk to you next time. Take care.